Welcome back all. Today we're gonna have a look at a fairly new type, function. So this is a relatively complex type and it serves as a wrapper for functions, sort of like a placeholder. You can store a function within it and then you can call it later. It is also very much new in C++11. So these two functions down below, test fun1, test fun2, they're not that important now due to the fact that, well, we've seen them before. They don't do anything strange. They don't do anything new. I've already explained them and they're fairly simple. But take a look at this first function here that I've created called calculate. Now, it takes up a type function from std, and it has a return value specified here, which is double, and then it has one parameter that it receives, which is also double, and basically that's f. The f is the variable of type function. Let's put it like that. So this function calculate, it actually receives a function as a parameter and it receives a double as a parameter. I know that it must look very strange and fairly new, I must say, but let me go ahead and give you the general syntax. Perhaps it shall help you out. So the first thing that you need to do is, of course, declare a type. This is the type. And then you need to specify the return type. So what sort of a type does the function return? Return type. And next up we can list parameters here. So param type, and you can have more than one parameter. You can have pretty much as many as you like. It's not really important. And then it goes like this. So fun here. There we go. This fun, this could have been f, like here. This is completely arbitrary. It is up to you. But this is the general syntax of how it actually looks like. And let me just show you the general syntax of a function which would be stored in the variable of this type. So let's go ahead and say that we have some sort of a function int my fun. This is all pseudocode that I'm writing now, as opposed to the code that you saw on the screen when the tutorial began. So if I create some function int my fun, and let's say it double d, it receives some sort of a double as a parameter, and it does something here. It's not important. It returns, in general, it returns a type of, it returns an integer. So this function will return some sort of an integer after receiving a double as a parameter. Now we can place this function like this. Again, declare a type. And now, what do we need to specify here if we want to place this function into a holder? It says return type. Okay, what is the return type of this function? Int. So let's type in int. And what are the parameters that the function will take? Well, it's just one, so we can just write double. So it just receives one parameter of type double. And we're going to close this, and we're going to name it f. It's arbitrary, as I said. It's up to you how you wish to name it. And then we say equal, so we're assigning a value to it, so to say. And then we take the name of this function, so my fun or myf, my fun. You can name it any way you like. You can name it my fun, myf, whatever, tralala, blah blah blah, etc. Doesn't really matter. And that's it. And now this f contains the function myFun, which can be called later at our convenience. Now, if you had more than one, you can have more than one. Like you can have double double int, etc. But it would need to be like this, int x, for example. So if this function received two parameters, then you would just list the two parameters here. No no big deal, really. It's fairly simple. You just list the parameters there and it's gonna work out. So let's go ahead and remove this pseudocode from here. Hopefully you understand now. So you declare a type, you give it a return type of the function which you are going to store into this variable, and you specify the parameters that are to be passed to a function which is again to be stored in this variable, and then you just state equal and the function name. So this function accepts a double and an integer. So you see it's a double and an integer, and then it returns an integer. Okay, so hopefully that is clear. Let's go ahead and delete this and go down into the code. So these are prototypes of the three functions, and down below I've created bodies for the functions. So calculate. What does calculate do? Well, calculate just returns the cube of whatever it is that it is passed to it. So look, you pass in a certain function here. It takes a parameter as its parameter is a function. So it receives a function, and that function has some sort of a return value. But the return value is double. But it also receives a parameter. So you also pass another parameter to this function calculate, which is in turn used as a parameter in this function here. Okay, so let's go about it one more time. There's a bit of spinning around in circles here, so that's why it can seem a little bit complicated. Anyway, you have a function calculate, which takes two parameters. So the first parameter is a function, and the second parameter is some variable x. Now this function that is received here as a parameter also receives a parameter, and we shall state that that parameter is actually x, which we have passed to the first function calculate here. That x will be taken and evaluated in this function, in the function that is contained within this variable. That function will do something with it, and then it will have a return value, and then that return value will be cubed. Okay, so hopefully you understood it. If you didn't, I completely understand. Don't worry about it. Just throw a question in the Q&A section. We'll be happy to help you out any way we can. That's really the best I can do, because these things, they're not, I wouldn't say that they're extremely complex or difficult to understand. It just takes you a while to actually understand what it is that is going on, because you have a lot of spinning in circles. Okay, so that value is cubed, and then that cube is returned as a value, so it's double. And down below I have two other functions, which is just returns the square, and here you have some complex expression where something happens. Now these two functions I've needed because I will be passing these two functions to this first function calculate, and their return values will be cubed. Okay, so let's take a look at the main. It says here double a, some variable of type double, is equal to the return value of the function calculate. Now look what I did here. I passed function test fun1, and I passed a value, and then again I passed test fun2 as a parameter, and then again I passed a value. So fairly simple. I can even just compile it quickly so that you know that it runs. I didn't create any printouts here. They're really pointless, because you're just going to get cubed values and some calculations which are not really that relevant. I just wanted to show you how the code looks like at the moment. There is also another thing which you can do with these functions, and I just wanted to throw it out there for you. I just wanted to show it to you. Other than that, it's not really that relevant for you at this point in time. It really isn't, believe me. So I just wanted to throw it out there for you so that you would see that it is possible, nothing else. This line here, if it seems like something you don't understand, well, you are correct. You can also pass a lambda function, which is new in C++11, to the function type, to the variable of type function. So f can actually hold a lambda function within it as well. I know it sounds strange, but that's the way it is. Look, you have a lambda function. This is how they are declared and written. I have explained that in the previous tutorials. It receives two parameters. One is int a, and the other one is of type int as well. So int a and int b. It receives two integers. And then this is just the syntax, this arrow and all the rest of things. And an int is a specified return value. So it returns an integer. And here you have the body basically in terms of what it does. It returns a times b. It just multiplies the two numbers. That's it. It returns the product of the two numbers. That's all that there is to it. So this part is a function. This is a lambda function. And this part is just something that we've talked about. Now, the type, the variable of type function, how it is declared. But take a look at this. Take a look at the matching things. So we have specified the return value here, which is int. The return value here is specified as well as an int. It takes two parameters, so int, and this function does indeed take two parameters, int. So these things, they do need to kind of match, and then the variable f can hold this function in it so that it can be called later on. And look down below, we have actually used it. It says int, I don't know, just whatever, the variable name is arbitrary, equals f, and then I have passed two numbers, basically it's 10 and 20, and this is going to work. It shall be 10 and 20, and it's going to be 10 times 20, which will be 200. In fact, let me just go ahead and do one single printout so that you actually believe me that it is so that you don't just take me for my word. Well, just res will be sufficient. There you go. It says 200. So it indeed multiplied 10 and 20, and we got this value. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and bid you farewell here. That's going to be it for this chapter. We're going to go ahead and move on into classes in C++. And classes is basically a general concept that is tied to pretty much to a good amount of programming languages, I would say. So it's some general knowledge which you will be able to reuse later on with other programming languages as well. Hopefully you understood this. If you did not, please, again, I ask you, go ahead and enter the question section. There are people in the question section who I pay, who are there to help you out, and they do monitor the Q&A section, and they do try to help you out in the best way possible. Anyway, bid you farewell and a ton load of luck.